by the record machine. I knew he must have been about 17. Beats going strong, playing my favorite song, and I could tell it wouldn't be long that he was with me, yeah me. And I could tell it wouldn't be long that he was with me, yeah me. Singing, I love rock and roll, smooth like time in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll, smooth like time and dance with me.
We do have the singer, our very first singer, Mr. Mark.
It's birthday. I'm so good to her, she knows that she can't change. Tried to tell me, but I looked at her like maybe she's an angel of deed, innocent and sweet. Yesterday's a bride. I've been so relieved to see the sunshine.
Mark Katzoff, Milton, Massachusetts. I'm a lawyer. Karaoke is my main hobby. Well, the way I originally got started with it was I used to go to science fiction conventions, and there was a group from Boxborough who one night of the convention would have what they would call a bad Beatles song fest. Basically, they'd rent a room and people would go there and we'd sing along to Beatles songs. Actually, before there was really karaoke, and then one year they actually did it as karaoke, and I became hooked.
My name is Art Deneen. I'm originally from Boston. For 30 some odd years I was a radio talk show host. New England, Detroit, Washington DC, Minneapolis, Denver, Tampa, St. Louis, Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, I've been doing karaoke since about 2003, so it would be going on about 7 years. Down in Acushnet at a motorcycle bar, if you want to call it that, and they were doing karaoke. And I had told myself on previous occasions I would never do karaoke. People who do karaoke are probably either crazy or drunk. And I tried it, and from there on I kind of picked it up.
I hope you won't really sing.
There was a dueling piano bar by Fenway Park, which is now an Irish bar. And one night they had a karaoke contest, but instead of having the machine, it was sing along to the piano players, and they had a book with lyrics to a bunch of songs. Decided to do American Pie, notwithstanding the fact they actually didn't have the lyrics to it, and sort of had spent the time sort of mulling around some things to do for the performance. So I incorporated a little pantomime in the performance, when the audience a little bit, and the music Save Your Soul part and the like, and then when I was done, the place erupted. I'd never heard anything like that before. And I was so stunned that afterwards I hung around the bar till close, which was after the tea was closed. And rather than take a cab to my car, which was packed back in Alston, I was just still so wired, I just walked all the way up Com Ave. And that sort of led to actually my first big karaoke hit. It was one of the songs that one of the performers was doing there was Shout, not the Tears for Fears song, but the version from Animal House by the Isley Brothers. Yeah, I tried that one, and she was all polite and said, basically, your arms are too short to punch with God. I was determined to refine the song for karaoke, and it's been one of the most popular songs I've done ever since, and probably the song that I've done the longest.
My taste in music runs the gamut, from standards, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, to country, to pop. Glenn Campbell, Harry Nilsson, Lou Rawls, Barry Manilow, The Knack.
I like to give the audience at least something, and I tend to adapt what I do based on where I am. If there are people that like particular types of songs, for me, I also like to do a lot of deeper cuts where, I don't know if everybody's going to recognize the song, don't know if anybody's going to like the song, but I'm doing it for fun, so just see what happens. And sometimes I'm amazed at things that people actually recognize. I'm on internet bulletin boards with other karaoke fans, and occasionally I've had people say, you ought to really hear these guys. Sort of an example of that is there's a group called the Baseballs that they're Germans that do doo-wop style covers of modern pop songs like Lady Gaga or Rihanna. And I've done actually their entire first album's worth of stuff over karaoke at one point, and actually should be starting in on the second album very shortly. In terms of so popish stuff on the women's side, I occasionally dabble sort of more on the soul bluesy side of that, say an Amy Winehouse or an Adele. In fact, I think I was the first doing Amy Winehouse in karaoke in JP, as I recall. Or I just do it entirely over the top. And when I had some folks telling me of how dangerously addictive Rebecca Black's Friday was as a YouTube, I decided to do something about it. So I got it on karaoke from a company in England and basically turned it into an Eric Cartman version. Friday, Friday.
At JJ's, Gene Johnson's, everyone kind of like intermingles, and I thought it was really cool. So I came here and I sung Journey, and everyone was so supportive. That was like the coolest thing. Like everyone was like really into it, and like I sung it terribly, and they were like, yeah, and I was like, wow, like I feel like part of the culture here, and I had just shown up, like I had just shown up and sung, and I showed up every week. And people were like really into it. They're like, yeah, you can sing Journey, like the same song or like a different one, whatever you want, Ginny. And that was awesome. You know, that feeling of like being part of like this crew in there.
'Cause I can't forget back and forth through my mind.
Oh, you got it. The cigarettes. Ready? Go. And a message coming from my eyes. Leave me
And it doesn't feel at all like karaoke at another bar where you're like getting up and being judged. It feels like everyone's like, all right, let's see what she can do. Can she sing? Can she entertain? Can she hold a note? And like that's the most awesome part about it.
But the secret to karaoke is a lot of people can sing, but the secret to karaoke is finding your range. And I've got a limited range, and I know it, and staying in it. The problem, when you have a problem, is when you start to go outside what your voice can handle, and then you sound like hell.
All right, Gabe. Gabe, I'm going to let you know, you scream into my microphone like that one more time, I'm going to keep it shut off. Because that's the easiest way to blow one of my speakers is by screaming as loud as... Listen, if you want to scream, pull the mic away.
If you're like a number of the people I've met doing this over the years, they go because they enjoy performing. And if you enjoy performing, you want to do your best, or at least not embarrass yourself.
Something to talk about. Let's hear something to talk about. Let's hear something to talk about. How about love?
You know, there are A singers, there are B singers, and then you can go down the line. I consider myself a good B singer. I'm not an A singer. An A singer you can pick out right away.
Let's give them something to talk about. How about love?
The shows I've gone to, you know, there are people who are good singers, and good singers are usually always going to wow the audience. And then there are what I call sometimes the geek acts, or the people that are just so over the top and they're just having so much fun doing it that it doesn't necessarily matter that they're the best singer, but they're just infectious. Karaoke DJs tend to recognize the people who are regulars and, you know, try to do well by them. You know, they're not really playing favorites a lot of times, but maybe give them a little more attention than giving to people who are just there for the first time.
We put out a couple of phone calls. I ended up coming down and didn't know it was Hank that bought the bar. So basically I'd said to him, look, I'll tell you what, I'll give you like 3 or 4 weeks, build up your clientele. 10 years later this September, I'm still here. I mean, it's a great place, it really is. One of the things I like about you, like you got Mark, okay? We call him Mr. Mark. The guy's just incredible. Not that he's a great singer, but he just enjoys it so much, and he always does different songs, And that's one of the things I always try to tell people. Try different stuff. Don't just do the same thing. I Will Survive or whatever. I mean, not that's a great song, but you hear it like 4 or 5 times a night sometimes, and it gets a little old. But Mark, he does different songs all the time, and I appreciate that. And then you get Art that comes in, and Art's done things like Britney Spears, Baby One More Time, and he knocks it out, and the people go crazy for it. So a couple of great guys.
One more time.
Yeah, all right.
The reason I do Britney Spears is because nobody expects her. It's like a surprise. Actually, with some people, we've set up a thing, and I'll start with telling people I want to bring a little culture into their otherwise drab and wretched lives, and I'll start off with something from My Fair Lady, like On the Street Where You Live. And then they'll stop me probably 60 or 70 seconds into the song and say, that's really not that kind of crowd. I'm going to throw something at you that I'd like you to sing. If you know it, that's fine. If you don't, you don't. And then they'll play Britney Spears' Baby One More Time. And of course, I'll look confused. And then as soon as it starts, I'm right there with it. I don't need the lyrics. I know the song that well. It still sounds like Johnny Cash doing Britney Spears, but it's not something anybody would expect. I found that a lot of people who perform, whether they be singers, dancers, radio personalities, are basically introverted. And this is the vehicle for them to heretofore bring out whatever personality is hiding in there. So when you're doing karaoke, you can be whoever you want to be. The same way it is on radio. You hear the wireless guy on the radio. If you met him in real life, he'd probably be a wallflower.
I think that there are elements of an alter ego in there. I was sort of joking with someone a couple of weeks ago that if you sort of view people as karaoke superheroes, I'd probably be Jem from Jem and the Holograms, because she was sort of this quiet business person by day and then just sort of almost assumed another persona when she was actually performing. And I tend to be relatively quiet and sort of become more outgoing when I'm singing. Of the reaction from the audience, the fact that it's something that's so entirely different from what I do in everyday life. I sort of like to think that as a lawyer, I tend to wind up acting as an agent of order, whereas a karaoke singer, I oftentimes wind up being an agent of chaos. I remember one time I was in LA and going to a place in Burbank that was highly touted as one of the best karaoke places around LA, and after I'd done a song, the guy running the show turns to me and says, "They're out of control and it's all your fault."
The same people, there's like 5 people who sing every week, and like they're maybe not the best singers, but they're awesome entertainers, and everybody roots for these people. And I think that's what kept me coming back every week here. Like the singing people get up and sing, and they just like sing their heart out. And they might sing like the same song. They might try something a little bit different out of their like realm of comfort. And we're all rooting for them. Like, you know, like I know Mark, I know the guy with the mullet, I know Black Elvis, and like no matter what they got up and sung, like they're fucking awesome. And that's the cool thing, like you can get up here and you can sing something that like you've never sung before. And you have that feeling of like they're rooting for me. They're like trying to make me feel like I can sing it.
Every night, no, you read my poker face. Every night, no, you read my poker face.
A friend who was a singer-songwriter in the area a few years back, and she graduated from Berkeley, and every time I went to one of her performances, I sort of felt this push-pull. One is, music is a wonderful thing, and now I'm in the mood to go out and sing, and or the other being, she's great, how can I call what I do singing by contrast? How do I even dare to go out and sing again? And sort of eventually, actually it was while I was doing the karaoke reality show that I finally came to the epiphany that solved the whole problem, which was karaoke is the wrestling of the music business. Wrestling calls itself sports entertainment, so I figured karaoke is music entertainment. So she does the real stuff, and I entertain. And I decided I could live with that. Then again, she has written a song for Hannah Montana, so she's not in a position to look down on anybody.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me, I recognize my face. Say you don't care who goes to that kind of place. Knee deep in the hoopla, sinking in your fight. Too many runaways, eating up the night.
You go to karaoke to meet girls. I mean, that's why I'm there.
Is that successful?
It doesn't work, but in theory it's supposed to.